The Mind That Measured Both Thought and Transcendence, William James' Journey of Faith. In the sunlit lecture halls of Harvard, where students debated the nature of consciousness and the laws of the mind, William James would often pause to pose a question that defined his life's work. How could a world governed by observable patterns, where emotions rise from bodily states, where ideas gain meaning through their consequences, still leave room for the mystery of faith? For James, this was not a conflict to be resolved, but a tension to be explored. His famous dictum captured this spirit perfectly. The heart has its reasons which reason knows nothing of, a nod to Pascal that he made his own by grounding belief in lived experience rather than abstract dogma. Born on January 11, 1842, in New York City, James grew up in a household steeped in both intellect and spirituality. His father, Henry James Sr., was a wealthy Swedenborgian theologian who counted Ralph Waldo Emerson as a friend and named his son after the philosopher. Raised alongside his brother, the novelist Henry James, William was educated across Europe, Paris, Bonn, Geneva, developing a cosmopolitan outlook and a love for art that led him to study painting in his teens. But a crisis of confidence in his artistic abilities led him to abandon the canvas and enroll at Harvard in 1861, where he studied chemistry, anatomy, and eventually medicine. His studies were interrupted by illness and self-doubt. During an 1865 expedition to the Amazon with geologist Louis Agassiz, he contracted smallpox and struggled with depression, later writing that he felt like a ghost haunting a world it can no longer touch. In 1867, while recovering in Germany, he read the work of philosopher Charles Renouvier and had a breakthrough. By choosing to believe in free will, he wrote, he could act as if what I do matters. This act of pragmatic faith pulled him from despair and set the course for his life's work. He earned his medical degree in 1869, but never practiced medicine, instead turning to the study of the mind. In 1872, James joined Harvard's faculty as a physiology instructor, and by 1875, he had launched the first experimental psychology course in the United States, establishing a small laboratory to study sensation and perception. His research led to the James Lange theory of emotion, the idea that feelings arise from bodily responses to events. In 1890, he published The Principles of Psychology, a 2-volume masterpiece that defined the field for generations, arguing that consciousness is not a static thing, but a dynamic stream shaped by evolution to help us adapt to the world. This perspective, known as functionalism, emphasized the practical purpose of mental processes, a precursor to his later work in philosophy. As his career progressed, James shifted from experimental psychology to philosophy, co-founding the School of American Pragmatism alongside Charles Sanders Peirce. For James, truth was not an abstract correspondence to reality, but what works in practice. An idea is true if it helps us navigate life more effectively. This framework allowed him to approach faith not as a set of dogmas, but as a living hypothesis to be tested by experience. James's exploration of religion began in earnest after a 1898 trip to the Adirondack Mountains, where he had a profound mystical experience he described as a sense of the vastness and unity of things. In 1901 to 1902, he delivered the Gifford Lectures at the University of Edinburgh, which became his landmark work, The Varieties of Religious Experience. Rejecting the study of organized religion in favor of individual spiritual life, he analyzed conversion, mysticism, and saintliness through the lens of psychology, arguing that religious experiences are genuine phenomena that can transform lives, even if their metaphysical claims cannot be proven by science alone. He wrote, "Religion is the feelings, acts, and experiences of individual men in their solitude, so far as they apprehend themselves to stand in relation to whatever they may consider the divine." In his 1897 essay, The Will to Believe, James defended the legitimacy of faith in the face of uncertainty. He argued that when evidence is inconclusive and a decision is momentous, we are not only entitled but obliged to let our passions guide us, for to suspend belief entirely is to risk missing out on profound truths. This was not a rejection of reason, but a recognition that human knowledge has limits. Unlike Newton or Pascal, James was not a traditional believer. He embraced religious pluralism, writing that the divine can mean no single quality, but is a collective name for all sorts of qualities and values that we find good and holy. In his later years, James became a champion of spiritual diversity, studying psychical research, mysticism, and even the faith of indigenous peoples. He died on August 26, 1910, in New Hampshire, leaving behind a legacy that bridged science and spirituality. For James, the pursuit of truth, whether in the lab, the lecture hall, or the quiet moments of personal reflection, was not about choosing between reason and faith, but about embracing both as different ways of making sense of a vast and mysterious world. He once wrote, "Be not afraid of life. Believe that life is worth living, and your belief will help create the fact."